Juhana Markkula, one of the more exotic versions of John in Finnish. Currently a vicar or rector of the Lutheran Church of almost 10,000 members, most of whom probably more or less nominal. I'm also the chairman of the national board of the NCD in Finland. We're a very tiny operation at the moment, but really enjoying to be here and looking forward especially to hear of you guys where the ministry is maybe more, larger. Yeah, that's about it.
My name is Björn. Most people know what that means nowadays. It means bear. I'm from Sweden and I'm a regular Lutheran priest, I would say, working in Church of Sweden, which still has about 50% of the population in Sweden as members, but they are not church attenders, many of them. Okay?
Yeah, my name is Anders Mikael in Danish. I'm based in Copenhagen. I remember a visit to Emmelsbøl in 1995 when I first heard about the research that was going on there, and we went home and had it published and set up an association of NCD, and that worked for some years. I think we have to reintroduce NCD for a new time, but I can say more of that later. But the context has shifted significantly, culturally, spiritually, since then. And yeah.
Okay. Yes, you have seen me, I think, Kjetil Sigerseth, and I'm the national partner for Norway and Iceland. In Iceland, I have very good help of Vigfus, so he's here. And I have been connected to NCD for nearly from the start, but more and more, and so as an NCD coach for 15 years and as a national leader for 10. So leads the work in Norway together with Likari and our board, our national board. Yeah.
Okay, I understand that the national church in most of your countries is the Lutheran Church. Is that different in any of your countries? Or would that be the same in all 4 countries? Yeah. And what does that mean? I live in a country that doesn't have a national church. And maybe some people do here as well. What does it mean when you're trying to do NCD or introduce NCD or help churches get healthier when there is a national church? Maybe you don't. I mean, that's a bit like asking a fish what water is, but.
I could start. I think that for all our countries, Christianity came to our neighborhoods in 1,000 years ago or so. And 500 years ago, we were a part of the Reformation, the Lutheran one. And it was a state church where first the Pope in Rome was the highest authority, but then after Reformation, it was the king. I guess in all our countries it was like that. And when the king switched to the government, then that was the case. And for some it still is. As the Swedish church was free, as we say, in year 2000, but some of them are still very strongly connected to the state. And that means, like cultural-wise, that for a priest or a pastor in the last 100, 150, 200 years, it was just maintaining something that you had inherited since a long time, sort of bring the people from the crib to the grave with the sacraments and the word. And now we're not in that situation. Now the main part of our population is de-churched, and we need to kind of be missional again.
Anybody else want to add to that question? Or is that similar across your countries?
There's been a lot of discussion among Christians. Should we build attractional mega churches of the US kind in Europe, or should we build organic church movements? And I've come to believe that it is quite irrelevant what model of church we are building, as long as it is healthy. I think we have had very unfruitful discussions and even divisions. I don't see movements as we idealistically thought about it maybe 10 years ago. I know Alan Hirsch personally written his Forgotten Ways. That's what I mean when I refer to organic churches. I don't see these patterns. What I see is a spiritual awakening across the nation. And I see a lot of men, 2 generations of men, because of wokeism and before that feminism, they are not clear about their identities and roles and responsibilities in society. And they go to the church that is attractional in model. They don't care. And they go to the churches where you have a clear existential theology. Is Christian here now? No. But if you are able to make theology existential, what does it mean for my identity, my especially being a man? Then it's relevant. And you'll find that kind of theology in the Orthodox Church, Orthodox Catholicism, and also more conservative Lutheranism, and even in some Pentecostal services. But if it gets too emotional, it's not emotionalism that they're looking for. They're looking for true. Do you live this yourself? Do you live what you preach? Can I build my life on this? They press your stomach to find out how valid it is. Do you just do this for money? Is it just your career? Or would you do it if you didn't have a wage? If you didn't have to live? So my confirmants, they're highly disappointed when they realize that I'm actually paid to be with them. So, yeah. But that's what we're seeing. And I think the challenge is to make NCD relevant in our communication to this spiritual awakening. Because before a spiritual awakening, it can go in all sorts of directions. And one of the directions is nationalism, that Christianity is being used for ideological reasons, conservative, even fascist tendencies, as you see in some circles in the US. And the great prejudice amongst evangelicalism in Denmark is that we're somehow connected to the MAGA movement in the States, and we are beginning to see anti-revival rhetorics coming out of liberal theological circles. So we have a huge communication task right now, but we're also beginning to see early revival. The question is, how is this going to reform the church? And what kinds of churches do we have in the future? And I hope that NCD could be helpful to bust the myth about what church should be. What is a healthy church? It's more needed than ever.
Okay. You look like you want to add to that.
Do I?
Yeah. I see you scrolling on your phone.
Yeah, I try to write down some notes. I think what Christian pointed out earlier today about, how much we produce reports on this and that, most of the time financial side of things, and I think his point about why not to look at quality. I'm just thinking about how valuable I think NCD paradigm and framework would be for our, speaking especially about the Lutheran Church in Finland, how valid and valuable it would be to give us something else to think about, and especially something else to base our developmental efforts on. That is to, and I think that's actually one of the rhetorics I'm going to take home from here, that come with that, and try to sell the idea of taking this paradigm more seriously. And I think that really could help us. Yeah.
And Kjetil?
I don't think I have anything to add to this, but
Okay.
yeah.
One of the questions I was hoping we'd hear from the group is, what do you think the biggest barrier, and maybe you've already stepped into this question, what do you think the biggest barriers are facing the church in your national context?
I think it's a theological barrier, especially intellectual, dialectical theology. That means it's a theology that is focused on what is going on internally in God and not in his economy, how we experience God and how God is present, even in a transpersonal way, he's immanent. I think that is very close to, it's a great bridge to the public, but to the established theological circles, that's a huge barrier. And that affects, because what you said, sorry if I don't, Johanna, you said it, this is, as Christian talked about, this is highly relevant for how you measure outputs of your financial investments. I sit in a council where we allocate resources to churches, and we only allocate resources to activities without any reference to the quality or the effects or the relevance. And this is a theological issue, because what is we cannot if you have a theological position that you cannot measure the effect of a divine presence affecting our lives, it's highly dualistic worldview, and so I think the greatest barrier is to make the Trinitarian theology relevant. That's also why I posed the question. How can you do that in a way that is both orthodox, valid, but also effectful, so that ordinary people in your congregations and decision makers will accept that? That's a theological, spiritual battle, it seems.
Okay. Kjetil, it looks like you want to add a barrier.
Yes. I just want to comment what Anders said, because I also think that our image of God is a huge barrier, because when people don't believe in God in our countries, I will agree on them. I don't believe in their God either. But if I can paint the God I believe in for them, I think they will change their mind. Because people have a lot of different variants of pictures. They are all too narrow, and they are all from other experiences and television or something mocking Christianity. So this is one of them. But in church, and if we talk about barriers in church, I think the largest barrier is that we are not, we hasn't grown as Christians as we should. So, yeah, at the personal level. So we are not ready to change in a way that God intended to. When we ask if we welcome new people, we do that. Everyone wants new people, but we want them exactly as we are. we don't want to invite people that want other things. Then they can start for themselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, to connect with the last thing you were talking about, I think for many of the historical churches, the inherited churches, it's a real challenge now to reimagine how church must look like in this time that we are living. I think we have for quite some time thought that our task is to present a message about what happened 2,000 years ago, and then expect people to kind of intellectually accept that. And what we need now, and what I think NCD points towards, is we need to live a life that could change ourselves and our communities and people around us. And that's what the first Christians did. And then it's said in Acts chapter 2 that they were cherished by the people. Christians who kind of comes from above with a message. It's not always that popular, but when we live it from underneath and serve people, then it could be very quickly open up to an interest for people.
I think, Christian, you referred to that as eye to eye. Living Christianity face to face. I'm in this journey with you. Would you like to add a barrier as well?
I think we've heard enough of barriers. To you. And I was just, as a word of encouragement, I think, and taking home from here as well, I think NCD, regardless of how much or how little you are applying it in your country, it can in any circumstance give you a roadmap when you look at your ministry. That's how I got involved with it. I was coming after a pastor, really creative, fantastic fellow who had started all kinds of ministries, and years later I came and I was just figuring out, well, what should I do next to move forward this part of God's kingdom in this church? And then I think that's when I read the small booklet by Christian about the 8 quality factors and get just a roadmap really to look at the things. And I think that's in any circumstance a good thing about NCD.
Okay, well, thank you. Can I have a round of applause?